This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Hey everybody, welcome to the WWE Podcast here. There's a Monday Night Raw review on this Tuesday, April 30th, final day of April 2024. We're going to get to Anthony DeMarco in just a second. Him and I had a 45-minute, 50-minute conversation about Raw a little bit, but a lot of it focused on the draft. I mean, we didn't really cover Monday Night Raw in depth, so I'll give you a little bit of some of my thoughts that we didn't get to with my conversation with Anthony, because as I said, we talked mostly about the draft and what it means and the rosters and going forward and potential rivalries and factions and things like that. And also dove back into a little bit towards the end of the show, actually talked about a little bit about the pandemic era and some of the memories that we had back then. Don't ask me how we got there, but we did. So before we get there, I want to thank a brand new patron. And that is Jason Miller, who's joined us. And I really appreciate it. Hope you enjoy your ad-free experience. If you want to go ad-free, patreon.com/WWE podcast is the name of the game. If you want to go there, or Apple Podcasts for an ad-free subscription. So we are going to offer 7-day free trials on both. So if you want to try us before you commit, you can do that for free for 7 days. And don't forget, with this being a PLE week, we've got our preview and prediction show coming up later this week, which you can get totally ad-free for free if you do the 7-day free trial on Patreon and or on Apple Podcasts. So one little bit of a disclaimer before I get to some additional Raw thoughts is that I had a screaming child in the background of my piece of the recording. So if you hear I hear voices on Matt's side, or I hear screaming. Yeah, that's my 3-year-old. Okay. And if I sound a little different, it's just because I'm trying to be quiet. So I had a hell of a time trying to pretend that nothing was going on when I had a screaming child down the hall. So just FYI, if you hear that, or if you didn't, now you're going to listen for it, right? But I had a screaming child that I did the best I could to mute, and I hope it doesn't annoy some of you. It's not a full-out scream, but like if you listen, you're probably like, oh yeah, I hear that, right? So anyway, wanted to just put that out in front. If you were wondering what the hell is going on my end, it's toddlers who are trying to change their sleep schedule. That's what it is. But anyway, let's get to some additional Raw thoughts that Anthony and I did not cover. And, overall, I thought it was an interesting Raw. Not because of where they were, which, if they weren't proud of where they were, you would have never known, right? In Kansas City, home of the Super Bowl champions, and Patrick Mahomes was on on Raw, which was cool. Pretty cool deal. Pretty big deal to get a Patrick Mahomes collaboration for Monday Night Raw. Big deal for both sides. Fun. And we also got a surprise return of Braun Stroman, who interrupted and took out Logan Paul and his crony. And I think Braun Stroman, as Anthony and I talked about it, he's an asset to the company. I'm not a huge fan of Braun Strowman, like as a character. I think he's extremely one-dimensional, but the one dimension he does have, he does it well. So he's a big, strong guy. I don't know if he's the monster among men or the monster among monsters or monster of all monsters. I don't know what they've landed on. We heard both of them throughout the show, but good to see him back. He's a big time player. He's not a top guy, but he's a guy that you can pretend is and have him be a contender for a world title or the Intercontinental title. But that's probably where he'll live. But right now, he's returned and he's drafted to Monday Night Raw. So overall, I thought the draft was fine. I know I complained about the picks and how some of you gave me crap, and that's fine. Some of you gave me crap for, he's complaining it's DEI and it's, and it's basically saying it's an affirmative action pick. Well, I think I've been validated in my assumption based on the fact that we got a first-round draft pick of Jade Cargill. All right. Now, Jade Cargill going to SmackDown in round 1. I understand that she looks like a big deal, but is she? All right. And also, we got the mention, if you didn't hear it, of the one of the, the first woman, the first black woman, drafted in the first round, which again, I have no problem. I don't care. That's cool. Like, fine, cool, great, whatever. But it just validates my assumption, because you're telling me you would put Jade Cargill, an unproven commodity, over Drew McIntyre, who has not only been a proven commodity, but an improving commodity, even more so over the last 12 months. CM Punk is in round 2. I mean, again, I'm not here to complain about the picks pick by pick and making no sense, and I would have done it this way, I would have done it that way. It just is absolutely ridiculous. And I told you guys that it is a performance. It's outward appearance. How does it look to the public? Oh, he's talking about race. Yeah, I am. You know why? Because they also explicitly made a point about it. They didn't belabor the point, but they made it a point. So I told you guys that, and you said, "Oh no, I heard some of you. No, it's not. Is you really talking about DEI?" Yes, I am, and I think I was proven correct when WWE themselves said it outright. They wanted to be able to say that they had the first black woman picked as the first round draft pick. They did that by design. They didn't care about the fact that, it doesn't make sense for her to actually be a first round draft pick. We wanted to be able to say she is, as if that somehow means something. It doesn't mean anything. You want to know why? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, who's on the roster matters. This isn't an actual NFL draft, right? That's conducted a little bit differently. Has a little bit different goals, a little bit different strategy. This is very much performance and sending messages to the stakeholders and shareholders and those that care about those kind of agendas. And are they, well, I don't want to get into it. You guys know where I'm going, but I was proven right. And whatever. Like, I'm not here to say, I told you so. I'm just here to tell you guys that, like, culture and that kind of stuff is bleeding into wrestling. We see it now. We've seen it for a long time, but now even more so now that the McMahons don't own it. And we have much larger organizations who own WWE, who have their own agendas and own beliefs and own political ideologies that are now bleeding into wrestling. And it's going to, I think, get worse and worse. Again, no matter where you fall on it, it's going to continue to get worse, which I think is bad. I don't care. I don't want my agendas in wrestling. I don't want other people's agendas in wrestling, even though I believe in my own and I think they're obviously right. I don't want my agendas in wrestling. I want no agenda in wrestling. You know what I want in wrestling? Wrestling. I want good stories, engaging characters. I don't want political agendas. Okay? I don't care if they're mine or they're not. I don't want them. I want zero. I want just wrestling in my wrestling shows. That's all. Anyway, moving on. So that's all I'll say about that. But we did then get, let's see here, Gunther versus Xavier Woods. This went 16 minutes with Gunther taking out Xavier Woods. Gunther wins, as he should have. And he got submission using the STF, I think, for the victory. And a long match. And I don't think Gunther should have taken this long to beat Xavier Woods, to be honest. But Gunther got the victory, and he should have. And it feels like Gunther's in a holding pattern. There's no doubt about it. Gunther is sitting here waiting for something to do. And that's not a complaint. It's just a place he hasn't been in a while. And it feels like they're just kind of positioning him, getting the pieces in place, giving him the hold steady command while they get the pieces into place before he moves. So we then got the story about the boy who needed to be calmed down after the shootings that took place at the Super Bowl parade, and which was just horrific. We have such a fast turnaround time in our brains. I forgot about that. I remember it. It's just how quickly the news cycle moves in our country is absurd. But it was horrific with the Super Bowl parade shooting. I mean, geez, kids and families, and I mean, it's just, it's, I'm not here to talk about gun rights. Okay. If you think I'm going down that road, I'm not. That'll be saved for maybe something else. My point about this is seeing this in WWE acknowledge it was kind of cool. And anytime you get a real life, horrific, tragic event involved in wrestling, it just kind of reminds you how thankful you are for wrestling. And, just kind of be able to find a place to run and hide away from real life at times and have that just space to be involved in a product that isn't so serious, it's just, anyway, just horrible. But we then got Logan Paul coming out, and CM Punk was drafted to Raw. The Pride were drafted to SmackDown. Tiffany Stratton comes to SmackDown. Again, very much a draft that was not wholesale changes, but rather kind of mild to moderate changes. And really just, it felt like about 75% of the rosters stayed the same, which is, I think when we hear draft, we think everyone is changing brands. Everyone. And that can't happen, right? Because if everyone changes brands, then you're going to end up with the same rosters, just a different color, right? Everyone that's on Raw is going to go to SmackDown, everyone goes to SmackDown. It doesn't make sense. So not everyone can change brands. But this one particularly felt like the draft didn't do a whole lot because they told us up front that the champions are tied to their brands that they're currently on. So they were exempt. So that took the top players, a lot of them, right out of the gate, off the board. So, I mean, it was just, it's fine. I mean, again, this was I'd say mild to moderate shakeup. However, they're just going to violate when they need to violate their rules anyway. And I've told you, I give it if I was to say number of weeks, I'd give it 2 weeks before they decide to just violate their own rules after May 6th. Anyway. All right. We got Jey Uso coming out, and let's see, Paul, Jey played to the crowd and teased shutting Logan Paul's mouth. And Paul said that Jey couldn't out-yeet him because he's been doing it since 2017. I didn't know. Maybe I guess he is. But Finn Balor and JD McDonough come out, and they start beating down Jey. And Patrick Mahomes gave his Super Bowl rings to Logan Paul. Tried to hit Jey with it, but he moved, and JD McDonough got taken out. And Braun Strowman made his entrance, and he chokeslammed Balor and Paul while Paul headed to ringside. And so Braun Strowman's back. Fine. Cool. I mean, I'm willing to see what maybe a Paul Levesque version of Braun Strowman looks like. It's fine. Yeah, I'm not super excited. I didn't go crazy for a Braun Strowman return, but it's nice to see him back, and he is a big name on Raw. That's fine. All right. Let's see. We got Booker T being interviewed, and McIntyre was also there, and there was an interaction that, again, not a big deal with McIntyre and Booker T. All right, we then got Sami Zayn versus Bronson Reed for the Intercontinental title. Sami Zayn beats Bronson Reed by DQ in about 8 minutes, and it was by DQ because Chad Gable attacked Zayn from behind after the haluva kick caused the DQ, and then Gable put Zayn in the ankle lock while Cole said Zayn is obsessed with winning the Intercontinental Championship, or rather Gable. Gable released the hold, and then Reed hit Zayn with a tsunami splash, and then Reed stood over Zayn and held up the belt. So clearly a triple threat. You can see that coming a mile away. Writings on the wall. Read the tea leaves. Pick your analogy. It's there. And I was hoping for a one-on-one. Reed is the X factor here. He's the one that's going to take probably the pin. There's almost no chance he wins. It's really about Gable and Zayn. Why Reed is being involved in this, I mean, you're trying to build new stars. So again, that's fine with me. If the idea is to build new stars, get people to understand who and what someone is that you've never seen before, fine. But it does feel very much like Reed, Reed needs to go away. Bronson Reed needs to go away and let Sami and Chad tell their story. It very much feels like that. Like I'm annoyed by having Bronson Reed involved. I feel like he should not be, but they're also trying to build new stars, and you can't build new stars if you ignore them and not put them in programs. So it's kind of a contrast of goals here. But ultimately, I understand the bigger goal, the bigger picture, and that's fine. All right, we then got, of course, the Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio walking out of the same dressing room moments. That was interesting. Anthony and I talk about that on the second part of the show here. So I'll save my thoughts for that. We got, round 3 of the draft, where Shinsuke gets drafted to SmackDown, Drew gets drafted to Raw, LWO comes to Raw, Legado del Fantasma comes to SmackDown, Ron Simmons, Farouk. He couldn't even get out half those words. I guess he's never said the words Legado del Fantasma in his life. He had trouble even with Santos Escobar, Angel, and Humberto. It was all over the place. But hey, they are. He didn't say Jeff Smith. Those are obviously Spanish names. So, damn, right? All right, CM Punk comes out after Drew went on a tirade. He asked if APA had everyone drinking since Friday. McIntyre said Punk is now a corporate ass kisser. I would prefer, by the way, if both Sheamus and Drew stopped using the word arse. It's we can say the word ass now. It's okay. Maybe it's the Scottish way of saying it, but I don't care. It still sounds like they're trying to self-censor when they don't need to anymore. It's just like, guys, no, just say ass. It's okay. Please. It's just a pet peeve of mine. But moving on, we then got McIntyre showing his elbow brace and said he suffered a fractured elbow when Punk tripped him at Mania, and said he continues to work like a real man. Punk had his music play. He was in a luxury box. He said, "I'm not sitting at home. I'm right here, you little itch," with a B. And Ron Simmons said, "Damn," which is always fun. And then we had CM Punk be chased. Well, he wasn't chased, but rather Drew switched places with Punk. Punk sat in the middle of the ring and cut a promo, which was, fine. We did get, it was only a couple minutes, maybe, I think it was a couple minutes worth. He said he loves Kansas City and the people who inhabit it, so he didn't want to waste their time. And said he wanted to do this in less time than McIntyre was world champion. And he said that McIntyre is only good for tweeting, and that's why he was drafted before McIntyre. And Punk said he was drafted before McIntyre due to simply wrestling economics. And losers hope things happen, Punk said, and losers pray for things to happen. Winners make it happen. Cheesy. Whatever. So this continues to be, honestly, I did not expect Punk to be there in person, nor did I expect him to look like he's not injured anymore. But he did say when he's cleared, look out. And they're building nicely and keeping things relevant in the minds of fans and not letting it get too cold with Punk and with Drew. I still don't know when Punk is going to be cleared. I don't know if WWE does. They're probably eyeing a certain date, maybe Money in the Bank, maybe the event in Saudi, maybe all the way to SummerSlam. I don't know. But they are doing a nice job thus far over the last couple months of keeping this at a pace where it's not overwhelming, but it is enough to keep you interested. So I do like the pace that they've told so far, where Drew is still in programs regularly on Raw, having matches with people that aren't named CM Punk, and then having Punk still kind of be that dark cloud that follows Drew around, that just drives him crazy, and I love it. I love it. Liv Morgan versus Nia Jax, 10-minute match here with Liv beating Nia, as she should, because she's been on a roll as of late. There's no official women's match for the pay-per-view here, the PLE for Backlash, but you would imagine Liv versus Nia versus Becky is coming soon. But Liv Morgan and Nia, I think, both did a very nice job here. Jax, with her weight, it's just what it is, doesn't take moves as cleanly as a lot of the other women, but hey, physics, folks. Nia has vastly improved since her first run in WWE. I like her gimmick. She feels confident. I've said this before. Her in-ring could always improve, but she's a bigger woman. So like, she's not going to look the same in the ring, move the same at the same speed with the same timing. It's just because of her weight. That's all. But at the same time, I would like to see what a Nia Jax title run is. We've never seen that. So I feel like Nia Jax is long overdue for a title run, and there's no better version of Nia to test it with. But based on what we're looking for in the future, and if Rhea's coming back in a few months, it doesn't make sense for Nia to be champion. It makes sense, honestly, for Liv to be. And also, Anthony and I break that down again in part 2 of this show. All right. We got QR Flash, Code Flash before Bubba and Devon came out. And the which, again, many people believe is Bo Dallas. It makes sense, right? They did the what's up bit, get the tables, testify. Fun little nostalgic moment. They did round 5. And we got Valkyra. Valka. I can't say it. I even screwed it up with Anthony. I cannot pronounce her name. Valkyria? Good God. I'm just going to stop before I hurt myself. We got Lyra. I can say Lyra. I can say her first name. Oh, so embarrassing. So Lyra got drafted to Raw, and you know what? She seemed genuinely shocked and genuinely moved by the pick. I don't think the NXT stars knew. It seemed legitimate that they didn't know they were being selected or who was until it actually happened. So if that's the case, I mean, that's kind of a cool way to do it. R-Truth and The Miz versus Otis and Akira Tozawa for the world title or world tag team titles. And R-Truth and The Miz defeat Otis and Akira to retain the tag team championship. Fairly quick match where Miz dropkicked Otis to prevent him from running in while Truth pinned Tozawa. So again, I think the days are very much numbered for Truth and Miz. I still think that, the next time that they defend him could be their last. Yeah. All right. We got a lot of Patrick Mahomes. And then we get to, let's see, Jay, Ricochet, and Andrade versus the World Heavyweight Champion Damian Priest, Finn Balor, and J.D. McDonough. The main event here was a 6-man tag team match, which ended with Jay, Ricochet, and Andrade beating Damian, Finn, and J.D. in 10 minutes and 40 seconds, with Jey Uso getting the splash and pinning Balor. Makes sense that the guy that's challenging for the top championship on Raw gets the victory, trying to make him look as strong as he can heading into the PLE. I think that Jay and Damian Priest have a program that is, I wouldn't say it's ice cold, but it's not exactly a program that's on fire. They've done enough to make us interested and make some of us kind of believe maybe Jay could win, simply for the fact that Damian is not viewed as a long-term champion anyway. So we'll see how that plays out. But anytime you have a WrestleMania, especially a new champion after WrestleMania, defend their championship on the next PLE, there's like a 99% chance they are not losing it. So I still don't think Jay's going to win, but I guess wait till later in the week for my official preview and predictions. We'll see if that my mind changes by then. All right. So again, fine end to Raw, some star power, big return from Braun Strowman, Punk there, some decent wrestling. The draft was, whatever. The order made no sense. The rosters didn't get changed up too much. The champions didn't go anywhere. So it's not exactly the biggest shakeup in WWE Draft history. But you know what? They can still do trades. I said this at last year's draft. If you don't like something, why couldn't they just initiate a trade and say, hey, there's a blockbuster trade coming between the two shows? I don't know why they don't do that or haven't done that. But they could if they ever need to. They do this like a big move or two to kind of hold things over throughout the year. Because I don't think they're going to do this again until after WrestleMania next year. And if the rosters largely look the same, they're going to have to just violate their rules within a few months to keep things fresh and interesting heading into SummerSlam and beyond. And of course, Survivor Series and War Games, all that. And then next year's Rumble. So with the rosters largely the same, I mean, there's only so many stories you can tell with the finite number of people you have on your specific roster. So if you're not gonna, if you're not gonna stick to the rules of the draft, then you gotta violate those rules to keep things fresh and interesting, which I think they'll do and have proven they don't care about doing. But all right. Well, I think that'll do it for the things I didn't talk about, because Anthony and I went off the rails, as we do. So if you're looking for a podcast that tells you it's one thing and you get another, you are on the right show. Because Anthony and I covered Raw here, so I wanted to do that. But also, again, we covered a little bit of Raw, a lot of just draft thoughts, and some stuff at the end that is non-draft related with the pandemic and thoughts in previous, years that during the pandemic, and you'll see. But again, I apologize if you hear screaming or sound in my background, or if I sound like I'm trying to whisper. It's because I am. So I just want to say that. But thank you, everybody, for listening. Anthony is coming your way in just a moment. I'll be back tomorrow with the mailbag if I can. If not, I'll be back Thursday with it. And then the preview prediction show shortly thereafter. And then we're off to the races with the PLE on Saturday. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And here we go with Anthony and myself.
Focus on that.
Welcome to the WWE podcast. Here we're going to be covering a little bit of Monday Night Raw, but really focusing on the draft here tonight with Anthony DeMarco, as we were going to do the current state of WWE yesterday, but decided, hey, we're going to wait till the draft fully wraps up and then give our thoughts on it, as it has concluded now last night in Kansas City. If you didn't know where they were, I mean, I think they said it 30 times or more just to let us know where they were. And we have a complete draft now. We now know who is where. Doesn't seem to be a lot of massive change, but we'll get into it here with Anthony. And how you doing? And what do you think of the draft?
There weren't any monumental changes. I mean, I felt like the most significant change was probably Braun Breaker going to Monday Night Raw. And I felt like he almost got the position as to which I thought LA Knight would be getting. Nia Jax going to SmackDown, I think, was relatively significant. And you know what? I don't particularly hate them keeping the rosters similar, because I think they have a good thing going on both shows, although I do think Monday Night Raw needed some additional star power, specifically on the babyface side, and I imagine they're giving that spot to Braun Breaker. And a returning Sheamus is going to help in that capacity, and once CM Punk returns and all that. But the only thing that kind of confused me is that if you were going to go this road, which I do believe was a good choice because of the established storylines and foundations they have on the respective brands, why did you do it in this format that it was like a redraft? And why not go back to like the old system that they had from even like 5 to 6, 7 years ago or 20 years ago, where you kept the foundations of your roster the same, and then each brand got like X amount of picks at random or something. Like I remember in 2005, for like a month straight, every Raw would draft someone, and every SmackDown would draft someone. And it would turn, and it culminated to like, I think 10 swaps per brand or something like that. So if they were going to go this road by more or less keeping both rosters the same, I'm just confused as to why they went with like a complete redraft of the whole roster.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, based on, what you said and what I've seen as well over the last couple of days, there wasn't a whole lot of massive change. The format was what it was. They had their war rooms, think what you want about that. Very much a performative deal where you have the imaginary powers that be who are pretending to make picks, and that's fine. I think that instead of a rebranding of the whole roster, maybe that would have been better. I mean, a lot of the picks made no sense. Like, how the hell is Drew McIntyre in the 3rd round? I mean, I like things that just don't make sense at all. That are, if you're really drafting your roster, are you really choosing Drew McIntyre, who's been prominent in a prominent position in winning a world title at WrestleMania for 5 minutes, and being one of the best performers that you've had over the last 6 to 12 months, you're picking him in 3rd round. And then you also have AJ Styles not picked in the 1st round. He's I think he was like in the 4th round of the first. I mean, it's just, the whole thing made no sense if you're actually supposed to believe this is a real draft. But when you look at the rosters, yeah, Braun Breaker making a change over to Raw is a big deal. Sheamus coming over to Raw, Kiana James coming to Raw, Braun Strowman. I don't know we haven't really talked too much about Braun Strowman, but he made his appearance last night and took out Logan Paul and his cronies. And I don't know what did you make of Braun Strowman returning to Raw and making an impact?
He looked way less shredded. He looked like he put on a few LBs, and he's another one that's suffering from the bald spot, I guess, issue. But I mean, I'm a Braun Strowman fan. I think that they could stand to add more depth to his character. But I just think that there's always a benefit to having a mobile big man on the roster. And I think Braun Strowman has kind of become the modern day version of Kane. I mean, I'm wondering as to what his creative direction is. I imagine it has something to do with this pending Wyatt family return, as we all know where that's going. But, I mean, look, Braun Strowman is what he is. He's going to Monday Night Raw. That'll give them some star power as well. But, I mean, is he going to change the game? Do I think he's ever going to get back to, like, a world championship level where he was in the early days of the pandemic era? Probably not. But I do see value in someone like Braun Strowman. And for his size, I've always thought he's very good in the ring.
Yeah, and for his size, he does things that he shouldn't be able to do. And, he is very athletic for a big man. He is a bit one-dimensional in the sense that he doesn't have really great promos. He's always yelling. He's always roaring. He's a big man that is intimidating, and he plays his role well. As you said, I don't think he's going to get to world title status, or at least maybe he could compete, but he almost has no chance of winning kind of at that point. And like you said, he could be involved in some kind of Bray Wyatt tribute group that's coming with Bo Dallas and whoever. But I mean, we don't know yet. And when you look at the rest of the roster for Raw, I mean, you have Damian Priest, who's still there. You have Becky Lynch, who's still there. You have Sami Zayn, who's still there. The World Tag Team Champions, and R-Truth and The Miz there. Jey Uso's still there. Seth Rollins is still there. Liv Morgan's still there. So really, at the core, these rosters still kind of look the same. What really surprised me, and I know that we have Roman Reigns, who somehow it made himself ineligible for the draft, which makes no sense, but we'll roll with it. Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns are still not on the same roster as of this moment. I mean, how are we going to get to a Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns matchup? Maybe we're not, considering that Roman Reigns is essentially a babyface right now. I know he's not slated to return for a little while, but I don't know. I hope at some point we get Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns on the same damn roster.
Yeah, I mean, that would be preferable, but I think they're doing this in order to have Roman Reigns be flexible, because obviously the bloodline is going to continue living on SmackDown, and it's a bloodline that's completely different than what we're accustomed to. It's a brand new version of the bloodline, and I actually appreciated that on SmackDown. That's what Paul Heyman alluded to, was the fact that he said, like, nobody knows who you're drafting with the bloodline anymore. But I think that this is them being able to say, like, Roman Reigns is now... Roman Reigns, if you think about it, is essentially becoming the new Brock Lesnar. And Brock Lesnar was always, I guess, absolved from the draft in the last several years. He was always a free agent. He could go to any show he wanted. So, I mean, I guess that's the avenue they're going with. But at the same time, I don't think it's really going to matter, because for the time being, at least, you could have put Roman Reigns on SmackDown, because given the fact that you could, I guess, write off at least the next month or two, if not 3, right till SummerSlam, I don't see Seth Rollins being in Roman Reigns' crosshairs for at least another year, maybe? Like, if we're being honest, when's the next time that we could realistically see a program between Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns?
Well, that's the thing, because you're likely not going to turn Seth Rollins heel for a while. You're not going to turn Roman Reigns into what he was for 4 years here, which is the top heel. You've already heard the "We Want Roman" chants. The fans are already wanting Roman Reigns to return, to see how he deals with Solo Sikoa taking the reins, so to speak, taking charge of the bloodline, bringing in new people without his permission. All these different things that people want to see how the fans, or how Roman Reigns is going to deal with that. And I think that's the that's already turned Roman Reigns a babyface without him doing a damn thing.
And I mean, I look at the landscape now, kind of going back to the draft here, and I think they've set up Monday Night Raw well with the structure. The one thing I was curious about that they kind of went with was that the champions were protected. And I found that peculiar because in years where you had brand exclusive championships like the women's titles and the tag titles, they weren't protected and you could swap the titles. But now that Triple H has completely revamped the titles and there's no more brand exclusive championships, now they're all exclusive. Like the WWE ones are synonymous with SmackDown and the World ones are synonymous with Raw. And then obviously you have the IC title and the US title respectively on each brand. But for you, were you disappointed at all that the champions were protected?
It was interesting. It definitely is not something Vince McMahon has done in the past. What I don't understand is, maybe we talked about this before with Cody Rhodes, who was told to us that he is a SmackDown guy. And yet it wasn't the draft. The draft doesn't draft titles; it drafts people. So if the titles are going to remain with the people who are on the roster they originally were, well, Cody Rhodes would be on Raw. He didn't just switch to the SmackDown brand because he won that the WWE Undisputed Championship. But I mean, that's here nor there. I mean, I don't have an issue with it. It kind of told you right off the bat that there's not going to be a lot of wholesale changes. That the guys and gals who are the top of the company right now are going to remain where they are. It kind of told you they had a roster that they already felt comfortable with at a core for both SmackDown and Raw.
And I can appreciate that. Like, I like the fact of keeping the foundations together. And like one of the most well done drafts in execution was the 05 one. Back when I did Retro, I actually remember I covered this draft. And you kept all your rosters still intact, but for a month straight, Raw would get a draft pick per week, SmackDown would get a draft pick per week. And the first draft pick to Monday Night Raw was John Cena. And he brought the WWE Championship over to Monday Night Raw. And then there was all this suspense, and you went like a month with SmackDown with no world champion and Raw with 2 world champions. And then in the final week, the final pick to SmackDown, they get Batista, who brings over the world championship. And I thought that one of the reasons why they did this was because you could leave the champions up for grabs in these drafts. Because remember how goofy it was when like the Universal Championship was red, and then it goes over to SmackDown with Bray Wyatt, and then they switch it to blue, and then Charlotte and Becky do the infamous swapping of championships. And like the only titles that were really interchangeable were the IC and the US, just because they were their own entities. So I don't know. I thought that maybe you could have swapped like the US and the Intercontinental, or maybe Cody would have stayed on Raw and Damian Priest would have gone to SmackDown with the World Championship. I just thought that it was a wrinkle that was taken away when it was readily available because of the rebranding of the championships. But to your point, I don't mind keeping the foundations of each roster intact. I just think that maybe if you want to go down this road, which is perfectly fine, shake it up a bit. Just do X amount of random selections for each brand and not just rejigging the entire foundation of both rosters.
Yeah, that's probably a better way to approach it if you're looking at this, and WWE continues in the future in the 2025 and 2026 draft that they tell us that the champions are always going to be immune from actually moving. Like if you're a champion, you're not going anywhere. You are on the brand that you're on. I think that, again, that tells it takes some excitement out of the draft, because you're not going to have these massive moves and changes, but at the same time, then that kind of tampers your expectations, and it kind of takes it down a peg or two, because then you know, hey, okay, my champions aren't moving, but at least we could have potential champions who are in the second and third tier move. And I don't know, how did you feel about, maybe you didn't feel too strongly about it either way, but when you have these picks the way that they got chosen, did you feel that it was a big deal that you had some people that made no sense to be in the first round and the second round, or did you not really care at the end of the day? You just look at the rosters for what they are.
In the presentation, I did find it a bit goofy. Like for me, like why is Carmelo Hayes a first round pick? And I get it, they're trying to position him well, but I mean, it's kind of like, look, like I have night 2 which I do find that night two's draft selections made a lot more sense. Like Raw drafted Imperium first overall with Gunther and Ludwig Kaiser. Then Jade Cargill goes to SmackDown. Both so far, both make sense. But then Raw drafts Damage Control. And I'm just like, so Raw drafts Damage Control with their second pick in the first round, and then their next pick in round 2 is CM Punk. In what world is Damage Control more of a coveted selection than CM Punk? Or for that matter, SmackDown, they draft Kevin Owens with the second pick in the first round. Love Kevin Owens, but does he make more sense than CM Punk? You know, Drew McIntyre went after the LWO in round 3. Like, it's stupid. Like, when you look at it, like, when you take a step back on a macro scale, both rosters make a lot of sense. And I think they made the subtle changes that you needed to make. Like, for us, we were both in lockstep that we believed that LA Knight had a one-way ticket to Monday Night Raw. But like I said, I think they gave Braun Breaker that spot on Monday Night Raw, which, I mean, you can critique it. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but it is what it is. But everything else kind of fell as I would imagine it to. But when you do it in this type of format where you're trying to replicate maybe the NFL or the NBA or whatever sports league in a real draft setting, some of these picks really do not make any sense. Like you said, like Drew McIntyre going behind the LWO, going behind Braun Strowman, going behind Damage Control. Like, he just won the world championship at WrestleMania. Like, I don't know. There are a very, very like weird selections. Like, even Bronson Reed. Bronson Reed was the last televised pick on Monday Night Raw. The last televised pick for Monday Night Raw was Bronson Reed, the guy who just laid out Chad Gable and Sami Zayn in the Intercontinental Championship picture earlier on in the night. So there were a lot of things that didn't make sense.
And what did you think about Baron Corbin? He was actually considered being, quote unquote, called up from NXT. He's going to SmackDown. But do you have any feelings on Baron Corbin now coming to SmackDown and getting, I guess, a re-promotion?
Look,
to the main
I've
roster?
always been a Baron Corbin fan, specifically when he was the Lone Wolf. But what I've always liked about Baron Corbin, more so than his look, is that every stupid gimmick that he's gotten, Constable Corbin, King Corbin, Sad Corbin, Happy Corbin, he's always made it like stomachable. Like, you'll never, like, he has gotten some of the dumbest gimmicks, but you've never seen him be channel changing. And I actually think he's really, really good in the ring. I think there's untapped potential with Baron Corbin, which is crazy to say because I think he debuted when? At like WrestleMania 32, I think it was, when he won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. So we're talking, 8 years now when he first showed up on the main roster. I remember when he went to SmackDown Live when they first brought back the brand split, when Shane was in charge of SmackDown and Stephanie was in charge of Raw. And he was a massive deal on SmackDown. He won the Money in the Bank and all that. So I'm looking forward to Baron Corbin. I don't know what his gimmick has been in NXT. I know that he briefly brought back the Lone Wolf stuff that really did not get enough runway on the main roster. But I'm really curious to see what Baron Corbin could do without Vince McMahon getting his grubby paws on him. Because was Triple H the one who oversaw the JBL stuff?
Yeah, I think so.
That was really unfortunate
yeah.
because that was like a spin-off of Happy Corbin, which really didn't work. But I'm curious to see what a serious Baron Corbin could do if, in fact, that's his character.
Oh, that's kind of what I was going to say, too, is you don't have Vince McMahon here looking at Corbin as some kind of comedy act. I mean, you have Corbin here who could show you what we have been missing through the Vince McMahon years, and now we'll see what that Triple H can do and come up with, because I agree, while Corbin has at times, again, not channel changing, he's not Kofi Kingston, he's not the New Day, but at the same time he's felt stale at times, but not, I don't groan or say, oh my God, this is terrible. I've never felt like Baron Corbin is not an asset to the company. I mean, I think the worst part that he went through in his career was the dog food on Roman Reigns. I mean, I think that was right before the pandemic when they had like a 6-month program That might have been the worst part. But after that, I mean, he's gone through a lot of evolutions, and arguably, I think his sad Corbin, happy Corbin, winning the lottery or winning it big in Vegas was the coffee or the ketchup stain T-shirts and all that. Was hilarious. So I have more hope than I have in the past to see what they do with Baron Corbin on SmackDown. Maybe they'll try to bring him back as a babyface, but it's really difficult to sell Braun or sell him as a babyface. He's so just inherently unlikable. So I have high hopes. And then you look at the others from NXT that I know you and I don't watch a whole lot of it, but there were, including Corbin, there were 7 call-ups from NXT. Blair Davenport, Dijak, Lyra I just want to say Valkyrie. It's not. It's Valkyra. It's so bad. I don't even know. I can't pronounce their names. Kiana James, Carmelo Hayes, and Dragunov. So there are these names that I can't pronounce. Some of them I'm sure we'll be able to pronounce them in short order because this is kind of what a draft is. If you look at the NFL or otherwise, you do want to bring up the new talent. These are the ones that you could look towards the future for. And I think we're looking at 7 or 6, not including Corbin, of these men and women that could lead us into this new age of WWE. And Carmelo Hayes having a match with Cody Rhodes on Raw was, I think it's a statement to the fans. Hey, this is a name that you're going to recognize moving forward, and having a competitive match with Cody Rhodes on Raw this past week. But I think that the NXT show had a nice, they had a nice showing. It's 7 picks. It's not overwhelming. I think it's just enough to add new blood into the roster.
No, I would agree with that. Again, I'm not really that privy to what's going on in NXT. I thought it was a nice touch having Shawn Michaels congratulate the wrestlers that were drafted to NXT and handing them whichever hat of the brand that they were drafted to. Look, I'm not sure how star-studded NXT is right now. Obviously you have Dragunov, the one who went to Raw. He just dropped the NXT championship. They made a big deal of the girl who she went to, was it Raw? She was the last televised pick on Friday night. Again, I ignorant. I'll plead ignorance here that I'm really not up to speed with NXT like I probably should be. But I am always curious to see what kind of impacts they'll have. Like a Braun Breaker making the jump here, although was he already technically on SmackDown? I believe he was, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me look here.
I believe it was a big deal that Nick Aldis signed Braun Breaker.
Yes, he was. He was technically
exactly,
a SmackDown
and
star,
there were some of those that were funny. Like Braun Breaker just signed with SmackDown. Now he's on Raw. Andrade just signed with Raw, and now he's on SmackDown. When I look at these shakeups, I have to say, it was more at the lower end of the roster that I think the more significant, movement was made. For me, and again, maybe it's just because I'm unrealistically high on this group, but one of the changes that I'm the most excited for, aside from Nia Jax going to SmackDown, because I think her going over there, quick side note, do you not really like the setup of the women's division on SmackDown right now?
It is, and we don't even have Charlotte back yet.
Because you have Tiffany Stratton, who I think is a budding superstar. Naomi, who's finally getting a relevant kind of story. Bayley, obviously, I think she's doing a great job. You have Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, who I imagine are going to win the women's tag titles this coming Saturday. And now Nia Jax. Even with no Charlotte and Bianca and Jade Cargill out of the single women's championship picture, you have enough women with Nia, Naomi, and Tiffany and Bayley to kind of string out stories right past SummerSlam, I would say.
Oh, easily. And then if you ever wanted to split up some of the tag teams like Chelsea Green, Piper Niven, and Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae, you could do that. We're already thin on tag teams as it is by default in WWE. That's just their nature. But yeah, I think from a singles perspective, even without Charlotte, although Charlotte in the next couple of months, I think is going to make a big impact and, maybe try to, I don't know if Charlotte will turn heel or not. We'll get there when we get there. But even without her, you're right. It is a nice setup on SmackDown right now. And I think that this is going to be a really fun summer leading into SummerSlam. Of course, a couple of pay-per-views before that. But yeah, this is even the tag team division's okay. I think that they're in a good spot. And, you know, you look at Raw, as I'm looking at the Raw side of things for the women, you know, you've got you got Damage Control, which again, why they were drafted in the way they were, and the ranking makes no sense. But you have Kiana James, you have Liv Morgan, you have Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, you have Alba Fire, Isla Dawn, you have let's see here, Natalia, which I mean, she's just kind of like wallpaper. She's just always there. She's Caden Carter and Katana Chance, Odyssey Jones, or I'm sorry, not Odyssey Jones. It's not a woman, but I think even on SmackDown or the Raw side of things, we've got a really nice roster. I think they did a nice job sitting down. Triple H did a really good job sitting down and trying to evenly split the women and figure out, hey, what are potential matchups moving forward? I think they did a nice job.
Between Becky and Liv Morgan, and whenever Rhea returns, and it really seems like they're going with like an affair angle between Liv and Dominic, which is, you know, it's pretty messed up to see how far we've come, but like it's an adult angle, but it's not like a rated R. Like it's just a very realistic angle, is it not?
I like it. I can't remember the last time they did an affair angle, and the way that they did it in the background, Liv leaves a room, and then 10 seconds later, Dom leaves a room. Yeah, they're doing it in a way that's still PG, and we'll see how far they can take it. I like it because I think this is going to be really fun where we have, I mean, obviously Rhea Ripley, when she comes back, is going to confront Dominic about what's going on. This is probably going to build and build and build. And that's going to lead to the official split of Dom and Rhea and the complete full throttle push for Rhea Ripley as a babyface, because that's the last tie really that's holding her from being a full out babyface is Dominic Mysterio. Even when she's in the Judgment Day, people cheer her. So this is going to be a fun storyline.
Well, and that's the thing is that I think that you have, well, first of all, I think that Liv has found her niche. Like, you've been trying to figure out what kind of character Liv should be. I think this is it. I think they finally found it. It fits her perfectly. I mean, I'm not a huge Becky Lynch fan, but I think that after I've digested it a bit, not that I hated it in the moment, pardon me, but I do think that she was the right woman to win the world championship right in the immediate aftermath of Rhea being injured and surrendering it, or vacating it rather. But I think that with Rhea Ripley coming back, I would imagine she'll be back in time for SummerSlam. You have Becky, you have Liv, but just between these three women, you can probably stretch a story into Survivor Series season. And to be honest with you, based on how we've kind of outlooked all of this, I think Charlotte would make more sense to come back to Monday Night Raw.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't hate that either. It's a 3-hour show, more time to fill, more spots, more minutes. I think that would be actually maybe a better idea, depending on where SmackDown is at the time. You know, I think the thinking is that they don't know what the scene is going to look like, what the landscape is going to look like. By the time Charlotte's ready to return in a couple of months, maybe they don't want to commit because, hey, you know, what if SmackDown kind of needs her? They see things working out a little bit better if she comes back there. She'll fit right in versus Raw. So it makes sense. It's smart that they're not drafting, you know, Charlotte Flair at this time. But yeah, I think that this is going to be a lot of fun with, like, Liv Morgan, like you said. I mean, she has come a long way from the Riot Squad and just being essentially a rag doll for Ronda Rousey for how many freaking months, just being beat match after match, pretty much a joke of a group. And really, like you said, she's found her little spot. She's found who and kind of what she is. And honestly, even her and Nia Jax, I think this past Monday, did a pretty decent job with their match. I really enjoyed that match, and I didn't think I would. And Nia Jax, to her credit, and I'm not a big fan of hers on other levels, but in the ring and on the mic, she's found who she is too. So Liv and I think Nia Jax are both kind of peaking at the same time, even though you have a champion that is, I mean, you and I kind of still feel the same way, I'd imagine, about Becky Lynch's champion. It's kind of like, oh, okay, sure. Like, I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's just okay. I mean, she even kind of shot herself in the foot in her promo on Monday where she said, you know, 6 years ago, I stood over there and this is where the man was born. And now I'm still here saying the same thing. I'm like, yeah, that's the problem, Becky. Like, this is the problem. Like, your character has not evolved from 6 years ago.
Well, look, I mean, I'm not a huge Becky Lynch fan. I find her boring. I find when she tries to be funny, it kind of makes my skin crawl. Like when she grabbed the mic from Jackie Redmond last week on her way to the ring. Like, I know that I'm in the minority here, like you, because I think she got a pretty big pop. And I will objectively say that I think she was the right person to be the women's world champion in the interim here. She is a transitional champion. I think it eventually goes to Liv, and then we're going to get a legit Liv Rhea program. But you still have to respect the star power. But to your point, it's like it's been the same stuff now. Like the man thing started, what, in late 2018? I think that's what it was.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Nearly
like
6 years.
it's like, and not to say that you have to completely like reinvent yourself. Like I do think there is like an opposite end of that spectrum where you're Chris Jericho, like where he's just randomly super upset if someone refers to him as Y2J. Like that kind of stuff pisses me off a bit because that is your character and you have to stay true to the foundation of your character. But I don't know, with Becky, it's just like, at least with big time Bex, like it was a bit different. Like it was still the same character, but it was a bit different. But now it's just completely back to like 2019 Becky. And like, I mean, it's before the pandemic, right? That we're talking when she was the double champion and all that. So I don't know. It's not for me. But again, objectively speaking, I do think that she's checking that box of star power on Monday's women's division.
Yeah, no doubt about it. She's their biggest star with Rhea Ripley not there. I think arguably she is, and you can't ever go wrong with Becky as champion. But you know, like you said, it doesn't feel exciting. I mean, again, very positive reaction, but there isn't this overwhelming feeling of just like, oh yes, Becky's champion again. I don't think most fans feel that. I think most fans are kind of like, cool, okay, we know what to expect here. But if you're still saying and doing the same thing 6 years later, I don't think that's really conducive to progress with your character or evolution of your character. That said, she's still very successful. I've been a little bit bored with her character as well. And when she does do comedy, it's never funny, almost never. But to be fair, comedy is very difficult to do, very difficult. I'm not saying that she should be good at it, but if you're not really good at it, don't do it. So maybe somebody hasn't told her or doesn't have the guts to tell. I mean, I don't know what it is, but maybe she thinks she's funny or whatever. I don't know, but I agree. When she tries to be funny, nine times out of 10, it's just kind of like, please stop the pain. But she's decent on the mic most of the time. Never really blows me away on the mic, but she's one of the women's pioneers in wrestling. She is a big name. She is what she says she is. The man thing is wearing thin on me too. It's kind of run its course about 4 years ago. But like it works, and they're probably saying, well, what are we going to, it's not broke, don't fix it, that kind of thing. But again, you're going to run the risk of fans potentially turning on her. And I think the only reason they're not is because Rhea's not there. If she had beaten Rhea at WrestleMania, I think that there would have been some massive uproar compared to how she won it now. They're only accepting it because Rhea can't be champion. But I agree. It's weird, too, that you're looking at Becky as a transitional champion. I mean, how is Becky Lynch a transitional champion? But she is, because Liv should be the one to hold it when Rhea returns, especially based on the Dom stuff.
Do you think Liv should have won it outright at the Battle Royal?
I mean, if they're good, it depends. It depends when right now they are planning on giving it to Liv. Like if they're going to give it to Liv at, the next PLE, well, then what the hell are we doing? Why did we bother with another Becky Lynch run? Why didn't they just do it in the Battle Royal? So it's hard to answer that because I don't know when they're planning on giving it giving it to Liv. So it's difficult.
Yeah, I don't think that there's going to be a Women's World Championship match at Backlash. I feel like they kind of checked that box with the Battle Royal. So then the next pay-per-view after that would be the King and Queen of the Ring, correct?
Yeah, in Saudi.
So, I mean, maybe they have a Women's Championship match there. I would imagine that... Oh, yeah, that is true.
They it's not only that, but I mean the women are in like potato sacks, and the crowd is generally uninterested in women's matches. I mean, you saw what happened with the last one. Kairi Sane returns, no one cared. it's not the best place to do women's stuff, just based on crowd
Well,
reaction.
no,
But go
it's a
ahead.
valid point, and I was thinking that you'll probably have a 2-pack of matches between Becky and Liv. And like for me, if you really want to get Liv over as a massive heel, would it not make the most sense for her to beat Becky at Clash of the Castle in Scotland? I know Becky is from Ireland, but it's still the United Kingdom. So for me, if you're not going to have a match at Backlash, you're not going to have a match at the King and Queen of the Ring, I believe that then there's one other pay-per-view between, I guess in June. Is there one between King of the Ring and Clash of the Castle? Yeah, I know we always do this, but
I'm looking it up because I'm not going to screw this up, guys. I just, for some reason, I go blank in the summer months. I'll find it. I think there is one every single month. There is that it goes from Backlash to the King and Queen of the Ring to the Clash of the Castle, and then it's Money in the Bank.
Okay,
I believe. So like every month. Does have
so
a
then
PLE.
I think it would be Clash of the Castle for me. So maybe you have a women's match for the world title at Queen's Crown or whatever the hell they're calling it in Saudi. Maybe you have a match there. It ends in a no contest or whatever. And I think Liv winning it in June would make sense. I think that would be a fair run for Becky. I think it wouldn't be too much to digest. And then that theoretically should line up with Rhea coming back, right?
Yes. Okay, so now I have the schedule. That makes sense to me, where we have a couple months of it's respectable for Becky Lynch to hold it that long. And it also puts more heat on Liv if she beats Becky in Scotland at Clash at the Castle on June 15th. And then you have Money in the Bank on July 6th. So you could have Liv Morgan hold the belt for a month, and then maybe whoever Liv is defending it at Money in the Bank, Rhea Ripley, makes a return at Money in the Bank or shortly after, and then you're off to a Liv versus Rhea Ripley match at SummerSlam. You could also add Becky. I mean, maybe they're already thinking, we could do a triple threat. Whatever the case is, Rhea Ripley is going to face Liv Morgan, who I think at that point will be a pretty well-established heel, especially if she beats Becky in Scotland for the women's championship. I think that's I like that plan. So to answer your question from a few minutes ago, if they're doing that, I think they're accomplishing a few goals that are achieved by Becky being champion instead of having Liv win it in that battle royal, because you're getting more heat on her having Becky lose in Scotland to Liv Morgan, and there's more of a pop, I think, for Rhea Ripley when she comes back trying to go after Liv, who injured her. So this all, I think, works out
and
well.
it could perfectly line up for Liv versus Rhea, because then what did they say, about 3 months for Rhea to return?
I think it was 3 months or so. I think she'll be back in time for
so
SummerSlam,
let's say you have Liv win at Clash of the Castle. Maybe she has a rematch with Becky around Money in the Bank or at Money in the Bank, and then you're into July. She retains that championship, or maybe she goes up against whoever else, another woman on the roster that I don't have right in front of me, like Zoe Stark, or maybe a triple threat match with Zoe and Shayna Baszler. And I think based on how the women are structured, there's a good avenue for one of those two to really kind of take advantage of that. But I think what I like about this is that then you could have Liv 1 month into her reign. It doesn't feel flat at all, because imagine if Liv had won last week and then you try and stretch it all the way to July. Like, is Liv really capable right now of going on a long women's championship run? Maybe the steam would have come off a bit. The win would have been taken over sales after month 1 or 2 go by. So, I mean, for me, I think that it would just line up perfectly for her to be 1 month into her title run, maybe have one successful defense at Money in the Bank, comes out the night after Money in the Bank on Monday Night Raw, Rhea comes back, and you have a nice couple week-long build, and even a build that it's already kind of writing itself, right, based on everything that's gone on in the last 12 months, whatever might evolve between Liv and Dom between now and then you could kind of really build this to a massive event at SummerSlam.
And I think in the meantime, you could have Liv start to get a couple of cronies involved, like get a bit of a group. Get a bit of a group going, one or two other women tops that are kind of following her around. Somebody maybe helps her at the event in Scotland. That's how Becky loses. Like maybe it's the Lyra who's coming up from NXT. Maybe Zoe Stark. Maybe it is Shayna Baszler. Somebody around Liv Morgan that wants to protect her, because Liv Morgan Rhea Ripley against multiple women, I think is a more fun story than just Liv versus Rhea one-on-one, because Liv versus Rhea one-on-one, it's such a mismatch of physical abilities. It's not even close. Like, Liv is going to get absolutely destroyed by Rhea Ripley. But if they put some women around Liv, I think that stacks the deck a little bit more against Rhea, and it's a more fun story. So I wouldn't mind Liv having a little bit of a mini stable going on as she starts to build this heel character, leading into our proposed SummerSlam match with Liv versus Rhea Ripley.
I think that's exactly it. Maybe you turn Kachana Chance and Kane Carter heel. I feel like feel like that would be something for those two to do. I feel like they're getting a bit bland. They won the women's tag titles, then dropped it, a week later or something. So, for me, I think that it lines up perfectly for Liv and Rhea Ripley to meet at SummerSlam. And then you also look at the impending return of CM Punk, who they're continuing to keep relevant on WWE television. And for me, after maybe a few years of SummerSlam feeling like a bit of a letdown, it feels right now that this SummerSlam has the potential to be one of the biggest SummerSlams in recent memory.
Oh, and a hell of a lot better than last year. Again, you and I have said this, and I still feel that way, that SummerSlam last year was like, it was a stinker. It was not a very good show. Like, I remember the wrestling was okay, but the storylines were, it's kind of exactly what you'd expect. No big returns happened at SummerSlam. It felt kind of a bland for SummerSlam standards. So this year is slated to be much different. Think about the people right now that are out with injury that we have slated to come back at or near SummerSlam. You have CM Punk. You have possibly Roman Reigns. He's not injured, but he takes his time off. Maybe Brock Lesnar to confront Gunther or something. We keep waiting for that. We have Charlotte, who's out there. I feel like I'm missing another big one here. I don't know, but there are a handful of big stars that are slated to return around the same time. So this is going to be a lot more fun of a SummerSlam, I think. Now, not everybody's going to, of course, return at that same event. You got to save your pieces to, spread things out a bit. But I think, leading in like mid to late summer is going to be a lot more fun than it even was last year.
Yeah, I really do believe that this has the potential to be a massive SummerSlam. The last time because SummerSlam, I don't know where, somewhere along the lines, SummerSlam felt no longer like a massive pay-per-view. Like, it's always been a massive pay-per-view, but in terms of like major title changes, like, when was the last time a major title change at SummerSlam? Oh, I guess it was during the pandemic era when Bray Wyatt defeated Braun Strowman for the Universal Championship, and then Roman Reigns returned as the Tribal Chief. Wasn't it branded "You'll never see it coming"?
Yes, very smart. That was a Vince thing. Hey, Vince, for all the crap we give him, that was a very clever tagline. Very clever. And it worked.
Remember, that's when every single pay-per-view had a tagline, like Backlash, the greatest wrestling match of all time.
Randy Orton
the
and
Extreme
Edge.
Rules, the horror show. You'll never see it coming.
Yes.
And then he won it. Remember, the pay-per-view was a week later? Like, Roman Reigns won the championship at a pay-per-view a week later. What was it? Was it Backlash? No, it wasn't Backlash. That was the greatest wrestling match of all time. What was that pay-per-view? They did it like a week later at Rome. Do you remember that?
Yes. What the hell was it? I know what you're talking
but
about.
But I don't know. It's just it's felt like some of the SummerSlam aura has been taken off recently.
Well, they're trying to. It's weird because they're also telling us at the same time that it's the WrestleMania of the summer, and they've turned it into stadium shows, and they're trying to make it feel like WrestleMania. And I think that that's not the best idea to do, because if you try to put WrestleMania expectations on a pay-per-view that's not WrestleMania, then you're going to disappoint fans automatically. I don't think that's a good idea to do. But I understand that they're trying to make it a big event in the summer, and it is, but like you said, outside of a small handful of big title changes, I mean, you did have a John Cena return to confront Roman Reigns a few years ago. That was a big moment. But it generally is, I mean, I guess maybe last year just put a sour taste in our mouth of just kind of womp womp. But it also at the same time is only 4 months removed. Is it 4 months? Yeah, 4 months removed from WrestleMania. And a lot of title changes you want to make stick beyond 4 months. I mean, a 4-month title reign, if you're trying to establish a new star from WrestleMania forward, is not the longest title run. I mean, you want like 6 to 8 months usually, but I mean, it's not a hard and fast rule, but maybe that also is the case too, that it's only 4 months from WrestleMania when you've already decided, okay, we're making big changes. Here's our new champions. So maybe that's also why.
And to answer a question, it was Payback. That was the pay-per-view.
There it is. Yeah. Well, do you know what the tagline was for that one? Did
Let me actually search it up. WWE Payback 2020. Let's actually see if there is a tagline. I'm looking on Wikipedia. I can't really find it. Payback. No, I don't even know if it had a tagline. If just Roman Reigns being there was enough.
Yeah, I'm looking too. I don't see what the no, I don't.
Man, you want to hear the match card?
Yeah,
the Riot Squad, Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan defeated the Iconics. Bobby Lashley with MVP and Shelton Benjamin defeated Apollo Crews to win the United States Championship. Big E defeated Sheamus. Matt Riddle defeated King Corbin. Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax defeated Bayley and Sasha Banks to become the Women's Tag Team Champions. Keith Lee defeated Randy Orton because that makes sense for some reason. Ray and Dominic Mysterio defeated Seth Rollins and Murphy. And Roman Reigns defeated Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman in a triple threat match for the Universal Championship.
Wow. Okay. So a lot of these names aren't even here anymore. Moved on to AEW. I mean, to see Ray and Dom together would be really funny. I think just to see that tag team for how different he is now would be really entertaining. I actually have it. I don't know if anyone else listening has. I have not ventured back voluntarily to go look at any of the pandemic era stuff. I mean, I haven't. It'd be interesting though. Now that we're so far removed from it, maybe our PTSD from that time is a little bit faded, and we wouldn't feel so much trauma. But I don't know. Have you gone back voluntarily to look at any of the content from that 18-month period where there were no fans?
You know, like I have in Canada, still you have a channel of the WWE Network when you subscribe to it through your cable provider. So I have it on my cable because I'm a weird person that still pays for cable. And like sometimes they'll just play like old school Raws or old school pay-per-views or whatever. And the other day I put on Raw and it was like a Raw from like just after WrestleMania 37. And like I put it on and I just immediately like backed out of it. And it's unfortunate because specifically on SmackDown, there was some really good content there. Like the early days of Roman Reigns as the tribal chief, that was all in the Thunderdome. But it's kind of crazy to think that it didn't last like that long. Like it was March 2020 to July 2021. But in the time that it was going on, it felt like an eternity. And I remember just like watching the Royal Rumble in the Thunderdome, the one that Edge won, like that was so bizarre, like more so than any other event. I just felt that was so weird. Or, you know, like the TLC match or the pay-per-view where like, I think it was AJ Styles versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship, the same pay-per-view where Randy Orton lit Bray Wyatt on fire. Like there was just, and Randy Orton's like one of his best runs, if not his best run ever, was in front of nobody. The last time he won a WWE Championship only to drop it like a few weeks later to Drew McIntyre Monday Night Raw. I think he won it inside Hell in a Cell. So, I mean, it was very, I believe Triple H's last match was at the Performance Center in like a non-sanctioned match versus Randy Orton. It was just very, very bizarre. Do you remember when they did the 25th anniversary of Triple H that led to nothing?
I remember thinking, oh, they've got to do something here. There's going to be a big moment. And it was just, yeah, we love Triple H. Here's some cool moments. Yes. I was like, what, why are we doing this?
And I remember we both came on here and we're just like, we're finally going to get Shane versus Triple H. We're finally going to get Shane versus Triple H. And then it just culminated in some weird exchange with Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and Vince McMahon. Like, that's something I actually watched not too long ago. And it was so awkward.
Oh, I honestly don't think I could do it. Or when it was actually, I remember one of the very first Raws of the pandemic era. It was the first, I think it might've been the first Raw, because it was 316 when Austin was coming back, and Austin had to come back in front of no one. And he stunned like Byron Saxton and like somebody else. And I'm just like, man, you missed it by a week. Austin had to come out in front of nobody. He must've just been like, man, this sucks. I don't think I could go back and watch that. I really don't.
Yeah, it was especially like WrestleMania 36. I don't think I could ever do that.
I'll never forget. I mean, the theme song is forever implanted in my brain.
Was that?
But the Weeknd? The Weeknd. What's their famous song? It's in my brain. I just can't. Whatever their biggest song is, The Weeknd is the artist. And it brings back so many weird memories of like Brock Lesnar versus Drew in front of no one and just silent, and having the last man standing between Edge and Orton. That was awesome. And I feel so bad for those two not being able to compete in front of a live crowd, and like, oh man. And having I think it was Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler, and Becky retains, and we're like, what the hell? And then, which is very fortunate for WWE. I think they would have turned on Becky at that very moment. So they got a little bit lucky there. But just those are the three matches off the top of my head I remember. And I don't know if I could ever, if someone just forced me to sit down and watch it from start to finish, I don't know if I could, because I'd be like, how did we get through this? How did we watch this? And
like, there were some matches, like I think the Intercontinental Championship between Sami Zayn and Daniel Bryan, or like the triple threat tag team match, but only one guy from each team was involved in it. Like John Morrison, one of the Usos, and someone else. I forget who it was. Like, there were just so many matches that, like, for me personally, I will just forever be disappointed that Drew McIntyre and Brock was in front of people. But at the same time, not to say that I'm happy that the pandemic happened, because obviously that was a horrendous period in all of our lives. But the one decent thing that came out of it is that we didn't get to see the big dog version of Roman Reigns versus Goldberg.
Oh, that's right. Yes. No, we all were spared that. Yeah, we didn't get to see 18 spears and people kicking out. No, because that's literally, I do wonder what that would have looked like at WrestleMania 36. I mean, I know we've seen Goldberg since then and all that, and Roman, but like, that would have been how many moves beyond the spear would Goldberg have done? I guarantee it would be, I could count them on one hand. It would have been horrendous. So we were spared that thing.
You know what's funny is that when he came back in 2016 against Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series in Toronto, a few of my buddies were actually live there, and he squashed Brock in like 2.5 minutes. That was perfect. Yeah. I love that. But then everything after that was just completely downhill. Like him beating Kevin Owens for the Universal Championship, and then it main eventing WrestleMania 33. Man, WrestleMania 33, what a travesty that WrestleMania was, eh?
Don't even talk to me about it. It's just the one damn WrestleMania that I attend. I spent all my money, but I spent a good amount of money and time, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna be awesome. And I'm like, this kind of sucks for WrestleMania. I remember I was not happy. Yeah, it was, and no big returns. There was no Rock. There was no Austin. You had Taker, but he had a crap of a match. It's just like, what? It was a bad WrestleMania. It just was. Now, it wasn't as bad as the end of 32, but even 32 had some big surprises. So, I mean, yeah, if I could take back going, it was still a fun time, but damn. I mean, I could have done 34, 35. I mean, but hey.
What was did you hear the original plan for that WrestleMania?
For 36?
For 33.
I'd have to. I mean, what match specifically?
Well, it was supposed to be Jericho versus Owens for the Universal Championship.
That's right. I remember Jericho being really pissed off about
and
that.
rightfully so. And I think that's what really was the catalyst for him leaving the company. And it turned into the United States Championship. But that led into a very weird period of WWE, which I know we're kind of going off track here, but I just listened to Jinder Mahal on Chris Van Vliet's podcast. And, you know, I've always said that I quit watching SmackDown for the duration of Jinder Mahal's championship run, not because of him specifically, but just because of how little that build made sense. And I remember how bizarre SmackDown, like what kind of period they went into there. And I remember following that WrestleMania, you have Kevin Owens go over to SmackDown with the United States Championship, and it was like his Face of America gimmick. And there was like a triple threat match to become the number one contender for like the United States Championship. And it was like AJ Styles, Baron Corbin, and like Sami Zayn, I think. And I was just like, man, like these are all guys that could borderline be in the world championship picture. Like AJ Styles was a former WWE champion. Kevin Owens was a former Universal champion. And then the number one contenders match for Randy Orton's WWE Championship was like Eric Rowan, Jinder Mahal, Luke Harper, like Mojo Rawley. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? Like, they should be flopped. And I always said that version of Jinder Mahal was going to work. But the reason it didn't work is because they pulled the trigger too fast on him as a main eventer. And I thought that if you had done that run as a U.S. champion and then kind of slowly, gradually pushed him into the main event scene, they could have had something really special. But a lot of people like myself just outright rejected him right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really weird time, and to think about those contenders and think about the fact that they were actually considered. I mean, it's laughable now. In the moment, even a lot of us were like, what the hell? I really, to be fair, and I've been consistent on this, I didn't hate the Jinder Mahal run. The run I hated the most was easily Kofi Kingston's in 2019. That was the absolute, I mean, that was just awful. But to me, I mean, Jinder Mahal, it didn't make sense. I mean, he's beating Randy Orton with the Colossus, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, he's gotta give it up in a month. And then he held it. And it's just, hey, I'm all for a foreign heel coming in, being the dastardly heel, running down the Americans, saying, you're just booing me because I look different, I speak different. All it's tried and true method. And I think it worked to some degree, but not the level that they wanted. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it, but I'm not one to sit there and go, this is the worst thing ever. I agree though that they might have done it a little bit too early and it wasn't fully thought out of how they were going to do this and make it successful. But I saw the podcast too with Chris, and I think they did a nice job. And I think, seeing what Jinder Mahal thinks about it now is quite interesting. If anybody hasn't listened to it, I would recommend you do.
Yeah, he was always an interesting character because then I believe he won the United States Championship at WrestleMania 34 in the Fatal 4-Way match. They didn't do a lot with that. And you look at that time period, like 2017, right up until the pandemic, like WWE was in a really bad space.
Oh, God. Yeah, I mean, when you look at the women's evolution hadn't really gotten to where you want it to be yet. It started. It's things are getting better, but yeah, it was not in the best of spots. When you look, I mean, ratings, talent, depth. You were still trying to lean a little bit on the stars of yesteryear. It was not a good time, and right now they're on a boom. I mean, wrestling goes in cycles, and we're right now on the ascent. I don't know if we're at the peak. I don't know if we're on our way down or we haven't even got to the top yet, but that's just the way it goes. And that was certainly a downtime. And now we are on the we're on an upcycle that really, I think the biggest upcycle since the Ruthless Aggression era. I said that before too, but I think we're in a good spot, way more than we were back 7 years ago. So, all right. Well, I know we've gone way the hell off topic talking about, we've kind of turned this into a wrestling nostalgia show, and recapping the last 7 years. But no, it is something that I don't think is really talked about enough of where we were in the pandemic era. And But any final, I'll just point it to you. Is there anything else that you want to discuss before we wrap it up?
Honestly, just that I think that while the draft itself was disappointing, to kind of bring this back full circle, I do think the way that they set up the rosters was very well done.
Yeah, I agree. Ultimately, I didn't like the way they made the picks. The picks made no sense, all that kind of thing. The order was ridiculous. But at the end of the day, when you look at the actual rosters and how they were laid out and the end result made sense. The end result, I think, was very balanced, and I would agree. I have no issue with the way the rosters were, and the way that they were picked, I think we can kind of put to the side, because at the end of the day, it's who's on the roster. So. All right. Well, I think we'll leave it there, guys. Thanks so much for listening. And I will be talking to you after Backlash. And we're looking forward to the event in Saudi after that.
Looking forward to it, man. Enjoy the pay-per-view.
You too. Good night.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.